You're listening to KCHUNG, Los Angeles, 1630 a.m. in the Chinatown, downtown, little bit of Echo Park part of Los Angeles, worldwide on the World Wide Web at kchungradio.org. This is Emerson Dameron's Medicated Minutes, medicated-minutes.com. I am Emerson Dameron. I am the host. And I am single currently. And I'm working on putting myself out there a little bit more. I've tended to be avoidant, self-isolating. I don't always make it easy for people to get to know me. So all of that changes today because I have a list of 36 questions that, by answering them, I guarantee that you will fall in love with me. This is from the New York Times, so it's legit. There's solid science behind this. And if you listen to this episode, you may be at risk of falling in love with me. That is a warning. So if that's not something you're willing to roll the dice on, you should not listen. And if it happens, I don't know that it will. It probably won't in every case. But if it happens to you, I can't make any promises about what's going to happen after that. I will say this. If you make a large donation to KCHUNG, large meaning it's painful for you, it's more money than you would be comfortable throwing away, but you're willing to give it to KCHUNG to support this kind of programming, if you do that, I will meet you at Burger Lords in Chinatown and eat a meal with you. In your company. That's the most I'm going to promise. There's no guarantee that anything's going to happen after that. Let's get into it. 36 questions that will make people fall in love with you. Given the choice of anyone in the world, whom would you want to have as a dinner guest? I'm going to limit this to living people only because otherwise there's the baby Hitler thing where you are under a certain obligation to invite baby Hitler to dinner and then take him out. Like, I know Hitler was maybe more of a symptom and some of those things would have happened if he had not come into power, but given the opportunity to have dinner with anyone living or dead, inviting baby Hitler and then killing him is what I would do. But if I'm limiting myself to living people, I do think there's some wisdom in the edict, don't meet your heroes, and I don't think that's about them. I think it's about me. Like, no one should have the onus of having to live up to what my ideas of my heroes are. So I don't think I would invite Nick Cave or anyone in that echelon. It would be someone who could make me laugh. I would much rather hang out with people who can make me laugh than world leaders if I had to pick. I would say given the choice of anyone in the world, whom would you want to have as a dinner guest? You. It's you. I would have dinner with you. Next question. Would you like to be famous? In what way? No, absolutely not. I think fame is unilaterally negative. I would love to be powerful. I think that being rich could be fun. My life goal is to be an unseen master of puppets. I don't want people up in my business. Nothing good seems to come of that, and people who want that are never going to be satisfied with any amount of fame or attention. So no, I do not want to be famous. I want to be powerful, influential, and adored. Before making a telephone call, do you ever rehearse what you're going to say? Why or why not? I used to. I still do when it's a job interview situation or something like that. And I think that's the best way to do it, to avoid botching it. I used to hate talking on the phone. I would avoid it. Even talking to my friends on the phone or family, I would often let it go to voicemail. And I think some of that is that avoidant insecurity. Because when you're talking on the phone, you have to think on your feet. You have to be in it and involved with the conversation and with that other person. And I'm embracing that now. I'm getting curious about other people, and I've had several tremendously enjoyable telephone conversations just in the last couple of weeks. So I may be the last person on earth to fully embrace telephony as a means of communication, but let that go to show that we all have room for growth. What would constitute a perfect day for you? I have an itinerary. It would be sex, coffee, sex, hike in Topanga Canyon, perhaps performing a few rituals along the way, then some more sex, watch a classic cult film that I made together with the other people who made it while I'm on ketamine. I don't know about perfect, but that would be an excellent day that doesn't require too many logistical finagling type of obligations. That wouldn't be that hard to orchestrate. Most of that stuff is imminently doable. When did you last sing to yourself? To someone else? I recently sang to someone I wish I had sung to a long time ago. Someone who sang to me in the past. It was tremendously comforting. I wish that I had been able to match that energy in the space I was in at the time. I don't sing well. I generally talk or recite or occasionally rap to myself. I don't mind singing. I enjoy it sometimes. It's a good way to get some air in the lungs. And I might start doing it more, but I would need some training in order to do it in a public fashion. I've been told I have an interesting voice, and that could be applied in a musical context if I got a little bit of schooling. And maybe I'll have time for that one of these days. I'm a great lover of music, so if I could contribute to that art form in a way that would enrich the world, I would be delighted to do it. If you were able to live to the age of 90 and retain either the mind or body of a 30-year-old for the last 60 years of your life, which would you want? I'm going to go with the body, because I was a drunken idiot when I was 30. No offense to idiots. I don't mean to be ableist, but I was lacking in empathy when I was 30. I'm much happier with my brain the way it is now. I do miss some of the physical advantages of being a younger man, so I might have to go with the 30-year-old body. In fact, I'm fully confident in that choice. And if I could have 60 years of that kind of lust for life, I think that would be pretty good. I think my brain would be happy to be in that mix, and it would work out for everyone involved. Do you have a secret hunch about how you will die? I've always been scared of my own death drive. When I was a little kid, there was a senator in North Carolina where I grew up named John East, who killed himself with carbon monoxide in his garage. I think he was facing some scandals and didn't want to deal with the shame, so he killed himself. And I remember my dad trying to explain what had happened to him and thinking, oh, so that's something you could just do if you wanted to. And once that door opens, I don't think it ever really closes all the way, and I felt closer to death throughout my life than would really be ideal or comfortable. I think it injects some urgency into my life. I had a close call a number of years ago, which prompted me to clean up considerably, and I'm a completely different person because of that. I'm glad to be alive. So I guess playing chicken with my own mortality indirectly got me to that point. So thanks, Death Drive. As to how I will actually die, I'm concerned about the big one, the earthquake that has been overdue in Southern California for quite a while. I think that's one way I could go, or just a lot of little ones. The invoice for climate change is also way overdue. Nobody is ready for what's already happened. Things are going to get gnarly. I don't know how I'm going to die. Hopefully, quietly surrounded by loved ones on a lot of good drugs. That's what I'm going for. Name 3 things that you and your partner appear to have in common. And I'm going to say that's you. And I'm at a bit of a disadvantage because this is a parasocial situation and I don't know you or know much about you. I can psychologically project and I can make certain assumptions. I would say that we both breathe. I think we're both pretty good at it. I breathe as a practice. I do some Wim Hof every now and then, some breath of fire if I need to cut my ego down to size in time for an important meeting, or expand what my nervous system is capable of handling. The breath of fire is good for that. I like breathing. I assume that's something we have in common. We both excrete, I'm guessing, which is a good reminder to not take ourselves too seriously, as we're ridiculous animals. And I would say that a third thing that we have in common is that a lot of our pain is from incomplete self-expression. We probably carry around a lot of difficult stuff that is not fully processed. And my wish for both of us is that we have the courage to just let that stuff pass on through, because the full expression of an emotion is that emotion's death knell, according to Stan Groff. And once you move that through, it frees up your energy to work on something else. For what in your life do you feel most grateful? Obviously, it's human connection. And I say that as someone who is an avoidant weirdo who has always had trouble making friends and relating to people no matter how hard they tried. I could not get out of my own way in a lot of cases. And I've had social anxiety and all of that. And I've come to believe more every day that we are who we are in relation to others. That whoever we are in our heart of hearts is not relevant to any meaningful concern. And we have to get out there and connect and get in the mix for life to happen and to figure out who we are and what we care about. So human connection, relationships, people I've smiled at in elevators. I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the ability that we have to grow and change. Growth is always optional. Not everyone does it. But I'm grateful that that still seems to be a possibility for me, and I try to surround myself with people who embrace change no matter how scary it is, and are willing to grow, and I'll see them on the other side. Those are the people I love, and those are the things about being alive that I'm glad are on the table for us. If you could change anything about the way you were raised, what would it be? It might be fun to have obscenely rich parents. Most people don't seem to enjoy it that much. It seems to cause as many problems as it solves. I'm curious about what it would be like. Other than that, yeah, I have some quibbles with the way that things went in my family of origin. There's stuff I'm still hashing out. I don't know what I would change specifically. I would make everyone involved a lot more honest. I would bring everything out into the open and cut through all of the BS and put us all in positions where we could really know each other. I think that's what I would change. And I would also make my parents rich so that I wouldn't have to worry about money. Because that's a pain. When you're concerned about money, it's hard to think about anything else. And I think I could handle it. Obscene wealth seems to be too much for a lot of people. Maybe it would be for me. I would like to give it a shot and hook up people that have been good to me and people who need it. Let's try it. I will make my parents rich and also much more honest. Take 4 minutes and tell your partner your life story in as much detail as possible. Okay then. If you scratch a cynic, you get a wounded romantic. And that's me. I spent a lot of time playing in the woods when I was a kid. I had a very rich inner life. I've always been a big reader and a lover of art and music and film, and that allowed me to kind of live in my own neighborhood of make-believe a lot when I was a kid. I was better at doing that than I was at relating to other kids, and that has been a persistent theme. I would say it's gotten a little bit better. Did not have a good day the first day of kindergarten. I think the worst thing about it was when I discovered that there was also going to be a second day of kindergarten, and basically just more and more of that for the next 12 years until I got out of high school, and then there would be college, which sounded like it might be fun, and then after that, work. I was concerned. I didn't want to be locked into that. So the first day of kindergarten was a bit of a shock. I've had good times and bad times since then. I had the difficulties that a lot of teenagers with mental health issues have. I've had a lot of the difficulties that adults with alcohol abuse issues and complex PTSD tend to have. For a lot of my adult life, I was just kind of bouncing from one horrible experience to the next and trying to medicate myself with uneven results. Along the way, I've connected with a lot of fascinating people. I love artists or people who live their lives as works of art. I tend to attract intense women. I'm not a big pursuer, and I can be kind of oblivious, as I mentioned, so the women who are into me enough to get my attention tend to be intense devil girls, and that's brought a lot of excitement into my life. At this point, I'm getting better at getting a little bit more curious and a little bit more perceptive and going for what I want. I stopped drinking in 2014, stopped drinking for good in 2016. Put my head down, got to work, developed a pretty strong work ethic. I realized that writing is what I really love to do, and that's probably what I've gotten the most joy out of. If I can take a painful experience and turn it into something that makes other people laugh, that is pure alchemy. I recently went through a divorce, which needed to happen. It wasn't fun, but it was necessary. I'm still a little messed up from it, but I'm working on it, and I'm excited about the post-traumatic growth that's coming. I think there's some love on the way for me and for you. The last few years have been extremely challenging for a lot of us. It's not just you. Thinking about a lot of stuff that happened in 2020 is excruciatingly painful for me. And I don't think I'm alone. We have not gotten anywhere close to dealing with that. I think part of what I want to give to the world is calling BS and getting real about stuff. And that's easy to say. It has not always been easy for me to practice, but that's what I'm going for. I live in Venice, in Los Angeles. I love long walks on the beach, curling up with a good book on the beach. I'm a Gemini. Love making out. That's pretty much my life. If you could wake up tomorrow having gained any one quality or ability, what would it be? I'm going to go for enlightenment. I'm scared, but I'm ready. If I could have any ability, it would be total enlightenment. If a crystal ball could tell you the truth about yourself, your life, the future, or anything else, what would you want to know? I'm curious about who really loves me. I know there was a guy, Alan Abel, the great prankster, put a fake obituary for himself in the New York Times and observed that the people who were the most grief-stricken were not the people that he would have expected. People he considered in his MySpace top 8 just gave perfunctory condolences, whereas some people that he did not realize he had touched were very stricken by it. Of course, they all hated him when they found out what he did, but I think it would be interesting to know who's really on your ride or die team, because I think if you know that, it tells you a whole lot about yourself and how you're presenting yourself in the world, and that would be fascinating information. It could be disruptive, but again, I'm willing to risk it. Is there something you've dreamed of doing for a long time? Why haven't you done it? Travel! I was a fall-down drunk for many years, and then I was a workaholic. I substituted workahol for booze, and didn't give myself a lot of time off to travel. I would take weekend trips to Palm Springs, and that was about it. Now I'm ready for adventure. Or I will be soon. Maybe not right at this minute. I do have a lot of things that I need to finish up this week that I need to be in Los Angeles for. So I'll get back to you, but travel is something I want to do that I haven't done nearly as much as I would like. What is the greatest accomplishment in your life? Anytime I can get a laugh from telling a story about a painful experience, as I mentioned, that's alchemy to me. I think quitting drinking is something I'm very proud of. Anytime I've been a source of strength for other people who are suffering in that category. And there was one time I broke up a fight. My next door neighbor in college was about to get his ass kicked. He had started a fracas with some other guys, and he was outmatched. And I broke it up just by being the grown-up. And then had a very long conversation with my neighbor where I think he admitted to himself that he wasn't really happy in that town, and started thinking about how his life could be different in a way that was more conducive to him expressing himself and being who he wanted to be. So I'm pretty proud of that. He could have ended up in the hospital, but instead we got to have a good conversation. So that time I broke up a fight that involved my neighbor is a proud accomplishment. What do you value most in a friendship? I would say curiosity. The willingness to be surprised and explore and grow and change. Because anyone that can do that never stops being interesting. What is your most treasured memory? I think the day I went skydiving in Lake Elsinore would be way up there. Just the way the landscape looked, how bright the colors were. A peyote ceremony that I did years ago. That was a whirlwind romance. Wonderful memory. I think the last day of a vacation that I spent in Charlotte, North Carolina, kind of recently, just everything came together, and there's a picture of me from that day where I'm smiling in a way that I don't normally see. It's off-brand. I was so happy. That's a treasured memory for sure. What is your most terrible memory? My pancreas exploding was not fun, nor was the aftermath of that. When I came home from the hospital, I was full of nervous energy. I had all kinds of free time because most of the structure in my life came from drinking, so I was free to do things, and I was terrible at all of them because I hadn't been cultivating my skills. I hadn't been practicing. That was humiliating, and continued to be for a number of years after that. It took me a while to get it together, and I really had to get down and focus. Everything about my divorce still hurts. A lot of open wounds there. The year 2020 into 2021 is still excruciating to think about. Yeah, I think I might have that in common with a lot of other folks. If it's you, I'm sorry. If you had a great year, I'm glad. Power is beautiful. It's scary to own your power. That's how powerful it is. Money can be fun too. It makes cool things happen, and it's nice to not worry about it. Fame is always terrible. Only narcissists want it, only masochists enjoy it, and not the cool masochists. Be the unseen master of puppets. Minimum exposure, maximum influence. Someone has to save all the famous people. You're listening to Emerson Dameron's Medicated Minutes on KCHUNG 1630 AM, kchungradio.org, medicated-minutes.com. I'm Emerson Dameron, and we're getting back to our little parasocial date where I answer the 36 questions that will make you fall in love with me. So again, that is a risk you run by listening to this. If you knew that in 1 year you would die suddenly, would you change anything about the way you are now living? Why? Yes, everything. I would totally devote myself to travel and writing so that I could be excited and engaged in my last year and see as much of the world and the human experience as the time would allow. And I would also write because I want a legacy. I want to leave something behind, and I think I might have a lot to say if I knew the clock was ticking. I always kind of feel like I'm running out of time, so it might not change too much, but I would spend as much time as possible traveling, writing, and connecting with other folks. Because, again, we are who we are in relation to others. Otherwise, we barely exist. And if I only get to exist for another year, I want to make it count. And get in the sesh. What does friendship mean to you? I think it's exploring and experimenting. I like having friends who I've known for a number of years, and I've seen them change. They've seen me change. I think when both people can be sources of strength for themselves and for the other person, I think any interaction where you come out stronger and more able to handle your own business than you were before you got into it is a valuable interaction and a friendship worth cultivating. I also like people I can talk to and just throw ideas at the wall. Non-judgmental support is crucial. If you love someone enough to hear them out and have compassion and understanding and be there with them, even if on some level you think that they really screwed up, that's friendship. What roles do love and affection play in your life? As I mentioned, I love a good makeout. My family was not all that tactile, so physical touch is a very big deal for me. I love to feel powerful in romantic connections. I love the excitement of discovering new facets of myself through the eyes and lips of another. I love the feeling of being in love, at least in the early stages. It made it possible for me to walk all over Chicago in the middle of the night in the winter and have no idea how cold I was or how much of a mess I appeared. I wouldn't say it makes life worth living, but if you're not falling in love every now and then, I do think you're missing out. It is a risk. You can get badly hurt, as I have been many times. But as time goes on, I'm more curious about other people, more empathetic, and I am very, very patient. Alternate sharing something you consider a positive characteristic of your partner. Share a total of 5 items. So I'll let you fill in the blanks. I like that you're curious. Now you go. I think that you're cool in a cool way. I find you attractive. I think that you're smart, incandescently brilliant when you're in the zone. And you're funny as hell, which is my favorite kind of intelligence. How close and warm is your family? Do you feel your childhood was happier than most people's? I don't know. I don't have any other childhoods to compare it to. As I mentioned, there was a lot of drama and distance in my family when I was growing up. I won't get into it too much because we never did when it was going on. There were lots of secrets and lots of pushed down emotions, and that created a lot of suffering. I would say everyone's grown up a lot, and I don't hold it against people what they were like many, many years ago. I hope people extend the same courtesy to me. My family could have been closer and warmer than it was, significantly. And my childhood could have theoretically been happier. I don't know how much of my issues are just chemistry or if it was adapting to kind of a weird environment, but yeah, it could have been happier. I hope that most people's are happier. How do you feel about your relationship with your mother? I love my mom. I've watched her grow up. She's very supportive of me in her own way, and vice versa. Name 3 true we statements each. For instance, we are both in the room feeling... I'll go first. We are both filling in the blanks in our experience of each other. Making assumptions, because that's what people do. We're both breathing. And we're both present, which is no small deal. I expect more out of presence as my life goes on, and I think you have brought that. And I see it and I honor it. Complete this sentence. I wish I had someone with whom I could share all my adventures around Los Angeles. I love bouncing around and trying new things. I'm a cultural omnivore, and I don't know anyone who is gonna be interested in like even a meaningful fraction of all of the things that I'm interested in, which is good. I think social parallax is good. I think you should be involved with different groups of people that don't know each other, because I think having a broad, mixed worldview will serve you well in so many crucial ways. But it would be nice to have somebody that just wanted to try things. Like, a lot of my friends are pretty firm in their tastes, and they like what they like, and they're not really messing around with new stuff. And I'd like to hang out with someone who is just willing to try anything, that just being with that person makes it worth doing. If you are going to become a close friend with your partner, please share what would be important for him or her to know. First of all, I think we would have to be friends. I need some kind of connection beyond just the sex. I'll admit it. Like I said, I'm a wounded romantic. I would want my partner to know that I still have flare-ups of depression and PTSD. I'm doing the work. It means a lot when that is seen and recognized, but sometimes things still get weird. And I will take responsibility for that, but I might just need some patience and support, and I will offer you the same. Tell your partner what you like about them. Be very honest this time, saying things that you might not say to someone you've just met. You got a strong mind. I love you for that. You've got an enormous heart, like the center of the world. You are honest, but not overly sincere. You're able to have some fun with it. You're playful. You're intense. You're passionate. You're not afraid to grow and change. And now you can say some nice things about me whenever you want. Doesn't have to be right now, because we're going to keep moving. Share with your partner an embarrassing moment in your life. Definitely falling in love with the wrong people is always painful and embarrassing. I've fallen wildly in love with incredible, intense, sexy, stylish, fascinating women who were just not right for me at the time, and vice versa. I remember pouring my heart out to a woman I'd been dating for a few weeks because I was thoroughly smitten and I wanted to get serious. I wanted us to be a team because I was crazy about her. And she said she was glad I brought it up because she was enjoying being single and I should get tested for chlamydia. That was an embarrassing moment in my life. When did you last cry in front of another person by yourself? I cry during holotropic breath work, which is basically hyperventilating. It's what the aforementioned Stan Groff started doing when the government started cracking down on his large group LSD sessions, and he needed some other way to facilitate those kinds of experiences. And you basically hyperventilate for an hour or three while someone sits with you, and it can be a profound experience either way. I don't really have the kind of like ayahuasca flavored hallucinations that I hear about with holotropic breathwork, but what it is an excuse to scream and cry in a group setting for however long you got. I've definitely taken advantage of that. I've cried in therapy a few times, which is really none of your business, but there you go. Oh, and I ugly cried in my car yesterday after watching Apocalypse Now on a big screen. I've been going through some stuff lately, and I'm a raw nerve right now, and I watched that movie, which is an amazing piece of filmmaking, and the whole time I was just holding it together. And then as soon as I got in the car and drove out, I put on a sad song that I just discovered that's been haunting me, and just let it go. There was crying and screaming, and it was not pretty. Evolution is beautiful, but it's rarely pretty. Tell your partner something that you like about them already. I like the feeling I get when I look in your eyes. You feel soulful and mischievous simultaneously, and I feel connected to you, and like you're right there with me, but there's this element of mischief, of the trickster, that makes me think we're gonna have a really good time. What, if anything, is too serious to be joked about? I think most things are too funny to be serious about. Levity saves lives has been my personal credo for a long time, but comedy is hard. There are no comedy prodigies. The best comedians spend years and years grinding it out at the open mics to try to get funny, And most people are not going to replicate that overnight. So I think with humor, timing is obviously a big deal. You don't want to joke about open wounds. You want to respect the healing process and then maybe joke about it when it's scarred over. And framing, like, who are you? What's the context of the joke? What's the subtext of the joke? What are you really saying? Are you the person to be joking about this? Is this something that you're connected to in a way that gives you skin in the game? All of that is key. And if somebody has been out of shape about something, you're better off taking them seriously. Unless you're an absolute comedy genius. If you were to die this evening with no opportunity to communicate with anyone, what would you most regret not having told someone? Why haven't you told them yet? I would like to thank the French philosopher Georges Bataille for writing his book on Nietzsche. That's a book that I dip into a few times a year. It's been tremendously inspiring. I think at the time, the other philosophers had no idea what to make of Bataille. I think Sartre said that he needed psychotherapy, which is just amazingly condescending. Bataille was a pornographer as well as a philosopher and a wild man. And his book about Nietzsche is the most fun work of philosophy that I've ever read. And I've never had a chance to thank him because he's been dead my whole life. And there's someone else I would thank for saving my life. I've tried, but I don't think it gets through. And that's fine. Some people are really bad at handling praise. And praise is scary. Like, you wonder if someone's trying to manipulate you. You wonder if they're keeping it real. It creates a sense of obligation where you have to say something nice about them in return. I get it. I wish that this person could see herself the way that I see her. Your house, containing everything you own, catches fire. After saving your loved ones and pets, you have time to safely make a final dash to save any one item. What would it be? Why? First thing that comes to mind is the laptop. I mean, if I'm going to recover from having all of my stuff incinerated, I'm going to need the laptop to do that. That's kind of at my portal to civilization, such as it is. That's the obvious one. I don't have any pets. Oh, I might get the orchid. I have a beautiful orchid. I feel terrible if the orchid burned alive. I would consider that particular orchid is irreplaceable in a way that the laptop is not. I can always get most of my stuff out of the cloud, but I'll never see another orchid like this. This orchid is once in a lifetime. So I might grab the orchid, or I might grab one of my knives. I started collecting knives recently, and I've used them as altar objects. I've gotten them charged up with all kinds of crazy juju, so I might grab one of those. But the laptop is something I would have to consider, because it would really be a pain to get back on my feet. Regardless, after everything I owned burned up, I mean, that's going to be a bad experience in the best possible circumstances. But if you're going to get back into the game, you will need something to get on the internet with. That's just how it is now. Of all the people in your family, whose death would you find the most disturbing, and why? It might be mine. I don't know how disturbing it is to actually die. And my death is the only one that I ever get to experience directly. And it could be really disturbing. I have my ideas about what it's going to be like, but I don't know. It could be absolutely horrifying. So that might be the most disturbing death, depending on how disturbing death turns out to be. I don't think I could stand losing either of my nieces. I just think I would be... part of me would be fundamentally broken if I lost either of those girls. I don't have kids. I don't want them. I would gleefully kill for either of my nieces if they just said the word. I would have fun doing it. Share a personal problem and ask your partner's advice on how they might handle it. Also, ask your partner to reflect to you how you seem to be feeling about the problem you've chosen. I feel stuck a lot of the time. Like, I haven't really gotten all of my soul back from 2020 yet. I'm casting about. I feel like I'm trying a lot of different things, and I'm doing the work, and I'm getting out there and being actively curious and engaged. It takes my feelings a while to catch up sometimes. And when I'm alone, a lot of the time, I still just feel kind of stuck. Like, I don't really know how to get things to the next level. And I'm definitely caught up in my own act. I still find it difficult to just get the hell out of my own way and get my head out of my ass and engage with other folks instead of just the ridiculous noise going on in my own head. And I'd like to know, how do I cut myself loose from that? Getting in the body is a big deal. Doing some boxing or yoga or anything that helps you limber up physically. Your body is a big mind. It's not all about the brain. The body is you. So one way to get unstuck is to just get physically active. That's advice I would give myself. I don't know what advice you would give me or how I seem to be feeling about the problem that I've chosen. There's also, the depression, which sometimes feels kind of intractable. I would love to just blast that out. I don't know how that would work. It's something I live with, and it's part of my life, and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And I think cultivating a better relationship with that is something I'm still getting better at. How about you? I want to be a source of strength. I think in many times in my life, I've been more a taker of value than a giver. When I was struggling in extremis, a lot of people supported me, and I depended on that. When I reached out to people, it's because I really needed their help. And I'm getting myself into a place where I can provide some of that strength and support. That's something I'd like to work on. I'm open to ideas, although that might be completely missing the point. And all that's a roundabout way of saying I'm more than happy to hear about your problems. Because there are a lot of other people in the world, and some of them are much more interesting than me, I've recently discovered. And you're about to hear some of them on KCHUNG, because that's about it for Emerson Dameron's Medicated Minutes on KCHUNG, Los Angeles, 1630 a.m., worldwide on the World Wide Web, kchungradio.org, site for this show, medicated-minutes.com. I'm Emerson Dameron. I created everything except the music. I'm the writer, director, producer, the guy for Emerson Dameron's Medicated Minutes. I am the person here. Everyone else answers to me. And I answer to myself. And no one else is responsible for the show or anything that they don't want to be responsible for. Sometimes I try to take responsibility for everything, just because I think that's a good way to learn, to kind of see your part. And at least own 100% of your 50%. But I think it also comes from a craving for control, which is delusional. You're just never going to have that the way you want. So nobody else is responsible for the content on this show, and I am not fully responsible if you fall in love with me. How that plays out is not something I can take all of the responsibility for, but if you do feel some nice warm feelings for me and you want to give some money to KCHUNG, you can do that, kchungradio.org. If I find out about it, I will be impressed if it's a big number. This has been Emerson Dameron's Medicated Minutes. Levity saves lives.